Apple Bloom dragged her hooves through the snow, saddened by how none of her and her friends' efforts could sway the bitter Mr. Humbuck. She spoke not a word on the way back to her cozy home of Sweet Apple Acres. Applejack had asked her one last time if there was anything she wanted to tell her, but Apple Bloom shook her head before she marched up to her room where she climbed into bed. She pulled the sheet over her face as she fought with all the thoughts that rattled in her mind. She tossed and she turned as she tried to force herself to fall asleep just so that the time would pass by. But it was the very passage of time that kept her from sleeping. She threw off the sheet and headed to her windowsill, where she perched her head to stare out at the town. She watched the colorful lights flicker and glimmer, but it wasn't enough to bring forth that same holiday spirit that burned in her just hours ago. Her stomach was sick with the thought of Mr. Humbuck succeeding in his plan. But what was a little filly such as her to do? Grounded and alone, his success seemed inevitable.
Hi, Apple Bloom. Ah!
Sweetie Belle's head popped up in the window, which startled Apple Bloom so much that she yelped and fell backward onto the floor with a thud.
Apple Bloom, are you all right in there?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Sweetie Belle, what are you doing here? It's not just me. Scootaloo's here, too. Your ladder wasn't tall enough to reach your window, so she gave me a boost. Can we hurry up? My shoulders are killing me.
Apple Bloom opened up her window and allowed her friends to climb up inside into her room. They brushed the snow off their coats and wasted no time getting down to business.
Why am I always the one giving you guys the boost? I don't understand. Didn't you two get in trouble? Well, Rarity was about to ground me for the night, but I got out of it. All it took was promising I'd never do it again and giving her the good old puppy eyes. Then she let me off the hook. I just didn't tell my aunt. Well, I am grounded, and you two need to leave before I get in even more trouble. We can't just leave. We have to get back to stopping. Shh. Oh, sorry. We still have to stop Humbuck before it's too late. Yeah, if we hurry, we just might be able to get back to his house to get a better idea of what he's planning on doing. Well, you two can count me out. What do you mean? What do you mean, what do I mean? Didn't you hear me? I said you can count me out. You heard what Mr. Humbuck said. Don't go chasing something you ain't got business chasing. Well, I'm not so sure we got any business trying to stop him. You're really gonna go by that horrible advice he gave us? Of course it's our business. If he stops that concert, then Hearthwarming's ruined for all of us. And what are we gonna do? Ain't no way 3 kids like us are gonna be able to do anything about it. Come on, Apple Bloom. This isn't like you. Where's your Hearthwarming spirit? Yeah, don't you care about the holiday? I guess I don't anymore. You're not serious, right? No, Scoot, I am. It all started with us caroling. Why did we even try? We sounded horrible, just like Mr. Humbuck said. Darn near embarrassed ourselves in front of the whole town. Then what? We were gonna somehow convince Mr. Humbuck to all of a sudden start liking Hearthwarming? Like we were ever gonna be able to do that. We ain't got no business caroling. We ain't got no business making Mr. Humbuck like Hearthwarming. And we ain't got no business saving it. Please, just go before y'all get me in even more trouble.
Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle looked to each other, saddened by the words that left Apple Bloom's mouth. However, they could see she meant every word she said, and they both knew what they had to do. Without another word spoken, they climbed out the window they came in from, as Apple Bloom clutched her pillow whilst already feeling the guilt of having driven away her 2 closest friends. But her mind was made, and refrained from turning to look their way, and so Scootaloo and SnivyG.Absol climbed down the ladder they used to reach Applebloom's window, disheartened by their friend's loss in faith.
We aren't just gonna let Humbuck ruin hearthwarming, are we? I don't know, Scootaloo. Without Applebloom, do we even have a chance? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not ready to quit on hearthwarming without a fight. I'm not just gonna lay around and let it happen, knowing I could have done something about it. Yeah, you're right. We can't just let him get away with it. Then let's get moving.
Brimming with determination, Scootaloo and SnivyG.Absol scampered through the snow, unfazed by the cold, blustery winds. They reached Mr. Humbuck's cottage and approached the front door to listen in and see if he was still home. Instead, they discovered something far more telling. They spotted a letter on the ground, all properly folded and nestled within an envelope. Intrigued, they unraveled it and began to read it aloud to themselves.
Dear all members of the Knick Choir, I cannot fully express my distaste for your sound and ask that you please consider canceling your concert in Ponyville. It would really make my heartwarming wish come true. Signed, Strawberry Sunrise. Why would she write this?
SnivyG.Absol, look over here. I found another one.
What's it say?
Pretty much the same thing, but this one's signed by Amethyst Star.
It's no coincidence that these letters were right here at Humbuck's doorstep. Which means
Humbuck must have written these.
How many more do you think he wrote?
What if he wrote 50 of them, or 100?
If the choir sees all these, then
they won't come to Ponyville.
Oh, this is bad, bad, bad.
We gotta find him and stop him before he mails these out. Follow those tracks.
Their hearts quivered, but their courage persevered as they raced through the snow, staying close to the tracks. Meanwhile, Applebloom laid in her bed with a broken heart. Her choice didn't make her happy, but she felt it was what she needed to do. Her confidence in herself had diminished to absolutely nothing and was in desperate need of guidance. However, she didn't know how to ask for it. Nonetheless, it was then that guidance came to her instead.
Sugar Cube, is it alright if I come in?
Yeah, I guess.
Is there anything you want to tell me? Anything at all?
Applebloom thought long and hard as she tried to find just the right question to ask. She doubted Applejack would be ready to accept an evil plot to ruin hearthwarming, so instead, she asked her something much simpler than that.
Applejack, was there ever a time you just quit on something?
That depends. If you're talking about that one time I tried to bake over 60 fritters at once in the oven while trying to get all afternoon's chores done at the same time, you bet I quit. I should have quit earlier, 'cause those fritters turned out blacker than a lump of coal in a stocking on Hearthwarming Eve.
Not that. I mean, like something big. Something you felt you could do at first, but it just seemed like no matter what, you just couldn't do it.
Are you sure we ain't talking about them fritters?
Applejack!
I know. I'm just kidding. Listen, Sugar Cube, quitting is never the answer to anything. It don't matter how big or small you are, or how impossible the task may seem. Applebloom, you can do darn near anything if you set your mind to it. I've seen you do it before.
I have?
Sure. Going back to the fritter story, you remember how filthy the oven was when I realized I left them in for too long?
Oh, it was disgusting.
That's right. Ain't no way we were going to be able to get that oven clean to prep a whole new batch for the reunion. I told Granny that we were just going to have to cancel the get-together and do it another time. So I went to finish up them chores, and what do I find when I get back inside? You're in there whipping up batches of candied apples. You must have had darn near 60 of them made. I was so impressed. Couldn't believe none of us had an idea like that. You had something that, not just me, but your brother and Granny thought was impossible. You saved the reunion.
I did?
That's right. You were the family's little hero that day. So don't go around thinking that you can't do the impossible, because you've proven that you can.
It was in that moment that all her doubt in herself had been cast aside and made room for that spirit she once thought she had lost for good. Now, nothing seemed out of her reach. If she could save the family reunion all those years ago, then she believed she could surely save Hearthwarming Eve. However, she knew she couldn't do it alone. She had to find her friends, and fast. But there was just one little thing in her way. She had to find a way to get ungrounded.
Applejack, is it alright if I go back outside? I promise I've learned my lesson.
I'm sure you have, but I'm afraid I'm gonna have to say no. I'm sorry, but either way you look at it, you still ruined that stallion's morning. So I feel this little punishment is gonna have to stay. Besides, it'll be getting dark soon. Ain't no reason for you to be running around this time of day.
Apple Bloom paused and had decided she'd try something she had never tried before. She frowned and gave Applejack the saddest eyes she could muster in the hopes of persuading her.
Nice try, sis. That trick may work on Rarity, but it ain't gonna work on me. Why do you even want to go back so badly?
Because I want to apologize to Mr. Humbuck. I ruined his morning and I feel really bad.
Well, that's nice of you, Apple Bloom, but I'm sure that can wait till tomorrow.
No, I have to apologize to him now. Otherwise, I feel guilty for the rest of the night, and I won't be able to sleep. Please?
Alright, fine. But you come right back home after, you hear?
I will, I promise.
Then go and hurry before it gets dark. I don't want you getting sick either.
With a burst of energy, Apple Bloom hopped out of her bed and rushed out into the cold. She followed the tracks left behind by her friends as she fought against the winds and snowfall. They led her all the way to Mr. Humbuck's cottage, where, to her surprise, her friends were nowhere to be found. She knocked on the door as loudly as she could and shouted Mr. Humbuck's name to see if he was home.
Mr. Humbuck! Hello? Mr. Humbuck!
But she received no answer. She quickly feared the worst, as she felt time was of the essence. She knew not where to turn next. That is, until she discovered another set of tracks leading back into town. Apple Bloom dashed onward as her knees started to grow numb, and the back of her throat burned from the icy air. But this wasn't enough to slow her down. Bright and flickering lights lit up the streets of Ponyville, which were also unbelievably crowded with ponies walking to and fro. She searched desperately for any sign of her friends, and while she dodged and danced around the local townsponies, she bumped into what felt much like a brick wall.
Ouch!
Apple Bloom? You came! I can't believe you're here!
I'm sorry about what I said. You two are right. We can't just give up on Hearth swarming, so I'm with y'all to the very end.
Oh, yeah!
So, do we know what Humbuck's actual plan is?
He's written a whole bunch of mean letters that he's going to send to the Canterlot Choir.
If they read them, then they're definitely going to cancel the concert for sure. We've been trying to follow his tracks to maybe catch up to him, but with all these ponies walking around, we couldn't tell which tracks were his. Well, if he's planning on sending letters, then he'll be heading for the pony post office.
I don't know where that is. Yeah, neither do I. My aunt's always the one who sends out my letters.
I know where it is. I always go there to send letters to my Auntie Applesauce. Follow me.
So off they raced to the post office as fast as they could, with Apple Bloom who led the charge. After they had turned a few corners, they came to a screeching halt once some pony crossed their path. Just on the other side of the street stood Mr. Humbuck with a sack of letters on his back. He recognized them without a moment's hesitation once their eyes locked, and Scootaloo wasn't going to waste another second.
There he is! Get that bag!
The Crusaders charged toward Mr. Humbuck, and in response, he took off galloping.
Out of my way! Coming through!
Ow! Hey!
Hey, take it easy,
Watch
pal!
where you're going.
Dude, what's your
Hey,
problem?
watch it! Careful, pal!
Mr. Humbuck, stop!
If you know what's good for you. I don't get it. For an old guy, he sure is fast.
Let's split up. This is the only way out. So, Sweetie Belle, you should stay here in case he comes by.
Roger.
All right, Scoot, you take the stuffed animal aisle, and I'll head over to the wind-up toys.
But I want to go to the wind-up toy aisle.
Fine. I'll go to the stuffed animals, you go to the wind-up toys.
Sweet.
All right, y'all ready? Break! Now, where could he be hiding?
Hey, be careful. This took me hours to build, so if you want to look at one, just let me know and I'll get it down for you.
Sorry, mister.
Apple Bloom knew she couldn't ask him to take down many so she could fully investigate, so she had to choose wisely.
Could I see that, Ursa?
The employee plucked the stuffed Ursa from the stack, but had lost his grip on it.
Whoops,
the Ursa knocked down a stuffed cockatrice that was closer to the bottom of the stack, which revealed Mr. Humbuck's wide-eyed face lit up with surprise.
Aha! Found ya!
Hey, how'd you get in there?
Oh, fiddlesticks.
Humbuck then burst through the stack of dolls to escape. He brushed against the young stallion's ladder, which made him lose his balance as he swung his hooves about to try and steady himself.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
However, it was inevitable. The toy store clerk fell into the display.
Uh-oh.
Apple Bloom looked on in horror as the dolls all came crashing down on her at once. As soon as the fluffy dust settled, she dug her way through and popped her head up from the sea of dolls.
Darn it! Where'd he get to now?
She had hoped to catch sight of Mr. Humbuck and where he took off to, but was instead met with a glare from the employee.
Sorry. Again.
Now, if I were a rude and shrewd stallion, where would I hide? No way! They've got a whole bunch of walking canterlot guards. I've always wanted one of these. I'm sure to be fine if I just tested one out.
Looks like I gave that filly the slip.
Without warning, Humbuck accidentally stumbled over the toy soldier regime Scootaloo had set up across the floor. He wailed as he lost control of himself.
Oh!
Whoa, there you are. Just as I planned.
Oh, why, you little pest!
Mr. Humbuck growled in anger as he collected himself. Scootaloo, realizing that this was her chance, dashed straight for him. Humbuck looked for something, anything that could help him buy him some time. Fortunately for him, he just so happened to be standing beside a rack of wind-up Wonderbolts.
Like to play with toys, do you? Then keep an eye out for these.
He grabbed each one, wound them up, and watched their plastic wings flap as they flew towards Scootaloo. She stood her ground and was forced to duck and dodge them all, which bought Mr. Humbuck just enough time to escape. Apple Bloom had managed to catch up with Scootaloo and urged her to follow as she chased after Humbuck.
Come on, Scootaloo. We can't let him get away.
Right, let's go.
With both Crusaders hot on his tail, they felt there was no chance he could elude them any longer. Sweetie Belle stood vigilant at the doorway like a security guard on duty, with her chest puffed and watchful eyes.
No pony's getting past me. No way, no how.
Until she caught sight of Mr. Humbuck as he trotted toward the exit. She saw her opportunity and seized it as she tackled him to the floor. His bag fell, and its contents spilled all over the floor. She stood atop his back and proclaimed her victory.
Ha! I gotcha, Mr. Humbuck.
Mr. Humbuck? Oh, who is that? I'm just trying to hurry on out of here so I can get these gifts wrapped.
Sweetie Belle climbed down from the stallion's back and quickly realized who she captured was not at all Mr. Humbuck, but a stallion dressed in a similar black coat and hat, with a bag that looked exactly like Humbuck's. Scattered all over the floor were not letters, but toys that were purchased. Sweetie Belle nervously chuckled as she shied away from embarrassment.
Sorry, you look a lot like some pony I'm looking for. What are the odds of that? Sweetie Belle,
stop him!
Like a gust of wind, the real Mr. Humbuck flew right by Sweetie Belle and toward the exit.
Hey, stop!
She tried to take off after him, but amongst all the stallion's toys that were now on the floor, she stepped onto a toy carriage that caused her to roll out directly into Apple Bloom and Scootaloo's path.
Look out! Ow!
They collided and tumbled onto the floor until they stopped flat on their bellies. Apple Bloom looked up and watched helplessly as Mr. Humbuck approached the doorway.
Mr. Humbuck!
He stopped just before the doorway to take one look back at our defeated heroes.
I'm sorry we ruined your day, but you can't mail those letters. Please.
Allow me some time to think about it. But first, I have a little errand to run.
Humbuck trotted out of the store, and the Crusaders helped each other to their hooves.
Come on, girls. We can't let him get away.
Not so fast. You three have made a mess of my store.
What do you mean? I didn't do anything.
No, but your friends sure have. There's toy soldiers all over the floor thanks to this one.
Those are so cool.
And this one just attacked one of my customers. And look at the mess she's made.
Yeah, sorry about that, mister.
You three have a lot of cleaning to do, and none of you are leaving until this gets resolved.
But we can't. We've got a holiday to save.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you can get back to playing pretend after this whole thing gets sorted out. Where even are your parents? I think they need to know about this mess you've made.
Oh, wait! We'll clean this all up. Just please don't tell no one.
Fine. You kids are lucky it's the heartwarming season.
Apple Bloom then turned to her friends with a plan already brewed.
All right, girls. The quicker we clean up, the quicker we can get out of here and still stop Humbuck. Scoot, you get a head start on those soldiers. We'll join you after we get this stallion's toys all cleaned up. Ready, set, break!
The three of them went to complete their tasks, while Mr. Humbuck was allowed to finally reach the pony post office. He stepped inside, with victory almost in his grasp. All that was left was the simple task of mailing out his letters. At least it should have been simple.
Welcome to the Pony Post Office. My name's Derpy. What can we deliver for you today?
Good evening, miss. I'd like to mail out this entire satchel of letters.
Oh boy, that's a ton of heartwarming cards. You must have a really big family.
Not quite.
Then they must be happy holiday letters to all your friends. You must be really popular, especially with a hat like that.
Again, no. Friends are nothing but a distraction and a waste of time, not to mention irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. I've never sent out a heartwarming card in my life, and I don't have a plan on it.
Well, that's fantastic. We're having a sale. We have a selection of heartwarming cards for any last-minute, card sending. The first card is free. Every card after that is just 1 bit for the postage.
I appreciate the offer, but I will have to respectfully decline.
Oh, look at the little reindeer on this one. Isn't he just adorable?
I suppose, but I'm really not...
How about this one with the snowmare? Nothing says happy heartwarming like a happy snowmare. It even plays a tune when you open it.
For the last time, I don't want...
You drive a hard bargain. But maybe this one, with jolly old...
The answer is no! I won't, nor will I ever purchase one of these hideous cards. If I did, it would be to use it as food for my fireplace so that I may watch it burn into ash. Because I can assure you that watching each of these pathetic symbols of the holiday be consumed by flames would bring me more joy than anything else this blasted holiday has to offer. Now, can we please get back on track and have all these letters sent out tonight? I would also like to pay for expedited postage so that these may reach their destination post-haste. Is that a possibility, my dear? Splendid.
Come on, girls. We have to hurry.
Apple Bloom urged her friends as they powered through the snow. All they could do was hope that they were not too late. They burst through the doors of the post office and galloped to the front desk. They got up on their hind legs and peered over the countertop to find a clerk, but there was no pony to be found.
Hello? Any pony here?
Looking for me, my dears?
The Crusaders turned, stunned but also angered to see Mr. Humbuck with a smug grin on his face. What worried them was the absence of his bag, which made their stomachs churn.
Where are those letters? We know what your plan is, and we won't let it happen.
Oh, how precious. It was a good thing I stayed. I wouldn't have wanted to miss this.
Miss what? What are you talking about?
Your letters are all set to go, mister. They were just taken by our last mail pony for the night.
What?
Wonderful. Thank you for your hard work today, miss.
You're welcome. We're also closing in a minute. Maybe more like 60 seconds.
A minute is 60 seconds.
Oh, right.
An awkward silence fell upon the room as Derpy stood up a close sign on her desk and left the office. The Crusaders fell to their knees, hearts broken as their eyes wept. Never once did they consider the thought of failure, as they hoped that the strength of their friendship and love of the holiday would be more than enough to see them through. Everything had crumbled right in front of them in that very moment, and that dastardly Mr. Humbuck enjoyed every second of it.
No, this can't be happening.
We just weren't fast enough. It's all my fault. If I didn't fool around with those toys. No, it's my fault. I'm the one who ruined everything.
No, this was all our fault. We just couldn't do it.
You should have heeded my advice, girls. Now look at you. A groveling, sniveling mess. And for what? All because some grandiose choir won't be showing their faces around in Ponyville? That might make a few ponies sad. Pathetic. All of it. You're lucky I'm in a generous mood at the moment, so here's what I'm going to advise you girls do next.
Humbuck stood by and loomed over them as they looked up with their teary eyes and quivering lips.
Wipe away those tears, stand up straight, and move on with your lives. All those disgusting feelings swirling inside you, cast them aside, for they'll do you no good. So you failed. You'll soon understand life is full of it. All we can do is learn from our mistakes, yes? Now go on, stand up straight.
The Crusaders followed his command as they continued to sob.
Next, take a deep breath,
Their throats ached, but they still filled their cheeks with air.
and repeat after me. Bah!
Bah!
Come on, is that all you've got? This is your time to express yourselves. You despise me, don't you? Just like the rest of this forsaken town. Say it loud, say it clear, say it with purpose. Look me in the eyes and say, Bah Humbuck.
Bah Humbuck.
Yes, that's good. The next time some pony makes you feel down, just do as I've said. I guarantee you'll feel much better in the end. Now come, allow me to guide all of you home. It's dark and cold outside, clearly not a place for young fillies like yourselves to be wandering alone.
Mr. Humbuck held the door open for the fillies to exit, letting in a stiff, icy cold breeze. The Crusaders glumly marched out into the street, but he stopped Applebloom with one last thing to say.
Oh, and also, I accept your apology.
Without a word, Applebloom turned away, and Humbuck smiled. Suddenly, what started as a light snowfall brewed into a violent storm. Ponies tied scarves around their faces to shield themselves from the icy wind as they fled to their homes. Mr. Humbuck walked each of the fillies home as they fought against the storm. Not a word was spoken during their walk, and not a goodbye was said as each filly returned home to their respected guardians. Scootaloo returned to her aunt, and Sweetie Belle with Rarity, both of which were thankful to Mr. Humbuck for bringing their loved ones back home. Applebloom was the last to be walked back home. Humbuck knocked on the door of her farmhouse, where Applejack hastily answered. She was relieved to see Applebloom as she took her hoof and led her inside.
There you are. What took you so long, Sugar Cube?
Applejack then noticed Mr. Humbuck, who tipped his hat to her.
Oh, it's you again. Thank you kindly.
Mr. Humbuck, at your service, madam.
Well, thank you kindly, Mr. Humbuck. We were starting to worry about little old Applebloom.
Not a problem at all. 'Twas the least I could do. She apologized for her behavior, of which I am grateful for. She truly is quite a darling with a heart of gold. You must be proud.
Oh, every day. Ain't that nice of him, Applebloom?
Applejack looked down for reassurance from Applebloom, where she only subtly nodded in response.
Storm's getting a little crazy.
Oh, I know, it's a bit bizarre. It seemed to have come out of nowhere, though I'm certain it'll lighten up in due time.
Say, why don't you come inside for a minute or two, just so you can warm up a bit before you head back home? It's the least I could do to return the favor.
I'm flattered, but I'd hate to impose.
Oh, nonsense. Come on, just for a...
Trust me, I'd only be a burden. Besides, this walk could be good for me. The streets are quite clear and all is quiet. The Celestian knows when I'll be able to endure peace and quiet such as this again.
Well, if you're sure that's what you want, then I won't get in your way. Happy Hearthwarming Eve, Mr. Humbuck.
Yes, it will be, won't it?
Humbuck smiled and walked back into the storm. Applebloom watched him disappear as Applejack shut the door. She had never felt such a painful ache in her stomach before, and every filthy grin Mr. Humbuck gave only made matters worse.
Well, shucks. Ain't he nice?
Yeah, he sure is.
Oh, and guess what I just found out? The Knick Choir, the biggest and most amazing group of singers in Equestria, are coming down here to Ponyville for Hearthwarming. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but you and I are gonna sit front and center. Doesn't that sound like fun?
Yeah, a whole lot of fun.
Oh, Applebloom, your cheeks are all wet from the snow. Here, let me wipe it off.
No, that's okay. I'm just going to go upstairs for a bit.
Oh, alrighty then. Well, hurry back down. Your brother just made a nice warm casserole. I'm a little worried about it since your brother's cooking after all, but it sure smells good.
Without a word of acknowledgement, Apple Bloom rushed to her room and closed the door. She was calm and steadily walked to her bed. Despite her effort, it didn't last long. She burst into tears and dug her face into her pillow to mask her whimpering. She didn't know it, but at the same moment in time, Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle had wept tears of their own. It seemed that whatever flame Applejack had reignited within Apple Bloom, Mr. Humbuck had managed to quickly snuff it out.
There won't be another heart's warming. It's done. Oh, can't you see? No fun, no joy, and no caroling. And it's no thanks to me. And it's no thanks to me.
It would seem that all was lost, and that wretched Mr. Humbuck had finally won. Once he returned home, he slumped in his chair, poured himself a glass, and made a toast to himself as the storm roared outside. He listened as his cottage creaked and shook. It made him a bit uneasy, but he celebrated nonetheless.
Happy hearth-warming, Ponyville. I cannot wait to see all your faces once my gift arrives. Or should I say, doesn't arrive. Oh, what a wonderful hearth-warming this will be.
However, this story is not over quite yet. There's still one last hope for our brave Crusaders. It's just a matter of time before they finally see it.